Really quickly, can you hear this?
Mm-hmm.
Badly?
I mean, maybe a little softer, type a little softer. It's not.
Okay.
I can hear it though.
What if I go this?
I can hear it.
Sweet. Thank you. I will
Can,
type without
can
my
you
nails.
can you hear drinking?
Yes.
Okay. Try not to.
I don't care
let
if we
my
hear it
mouth
or not.
dry out too much.
Oh, no, that's really fine because I'm going to be doing the same thing, so I'm not too concerned.
Welcome to the latest episode of Authenticated with your host, Kate McLeod. I am intrigued by people. People watching, I love. People learning, that's where I'm insatiably curious. I'm interested in the why and how of the creative mind's pattern of thinking, the subtext to the creative thinker, or in its more conscious and malleable form, the creative conscious. Because when you are so clear on yourself via the triad of consciousnesses, then you become reflective to others. Meeting yourself is an infectious practice because what feels good is infectious and something I think we could all use a good dose of. So join me in conversations with a diverse arsenal of creative thinkers, from artists to entrepreneurs to serial thinkers ready to optimize their creative conscious. With me, self-made and self-proclaimed creative entrepreneur. Sounds hot, right?
Dave Byer, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me. It's so nice to chat with you.
No, thank you for being here. I'm really excited. So for context for people who are listening, Dave and I met via the Hollywood Radio and Television Society. You are the co-president of our chapter in New York, and I am a board member.
Yeah, we I think met for the first time last year at one of our speed networking events, and I feel like in our first conversation we just kind of clicked, and glad to have you aboard now.
Yeah, I'm having a lot of fun there. I mean, the networking alone is great. The opportunity that exists there is great. I love collaboration events, all of the above that's happening there. I remember at the speed networking event that we met at, we were talking about programming because I never met anyone who did programming at a network. And I was really excited to learn about what it is that you did because I didn't even understand at the time that that was something that people were able to do.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. I think it was like hugely important in the early days of TV, and in the last 20 years has kind of waned and then come back as a need because of under like a different guise with curation is kind of what they're calling it now when it comes to streamers. It's like programming, curating what people want to see and knowing their taste and feeding that to them.
Why does the title change?
You know how things with trends go. I think it's, hipper and cooler to use a word like that, or I think people also call it like editorial for the streamers, but it's all basically the same content strategy bucket.
So it's just to keep up with the times then when like the name of that changes? Because what you did just sounded like the curation of the
Yeah,
program.
yeah, it was curation for linear, and I think to sound more modern, it's like to differentiate the streaming from the linear. I think there's a little bit of siloing in the industry within those departments, and a lot of people, think that linear is dying, and maybe it is, probably is. So it's a way of, I think, looking more toward the future rather than the past, but that's just my hunch.
I feel like it'd be such a good position for you because I feel like with your really diverse background of what you've been doing in the industry, it seems like a strength that you have is using your own artistry to concisely put one big idea into a small digestible hook. Like you're really good at making hooks for larger works. Like when you were at I was reading your letterbox and I was like, oh, this is so I was like, this is good. This is good. When you were at Coverfly, because that's what you did, right?
Yeah, well, with them, I was giving writers script feedback to try to make their work better, and it's like I've given coverage at corporate jobs before too, but this type of coverage was specifically designed to be seen by the writer and used for them to improve their craft and their script to be better when it's seen by corporate eyes. Whereas if you write coverage for a company, it's more of a like, what did you like about this or dislike about it,
Mm-hmm.
and is less constructive.
Wait, so when you're doing that
Mm-hmm.
and you're communicating this coverage, in your head, who are you talking to? Are you talking to the consumers or to the creator?
Yeah, that's like what I mean about the difference between the two. Like if you're writing coverage at an agency or a production company, you're writing it for the agents and the managers to know whether to consider reading more of a client's work or who to send their work to, whether it's good or bad. And when
Mm-hmm.
you're writing it for Coverfly, it's going back to the person who wrote it so that they can try to make it better usually. And occasionally we would write it for like script contests,
Uh-huh.
and then that one is being read by, whoever the judges are.
You're saying this and it's clicking with me why AI is a problem in this sector.
Mm-hmm.
But even AI, so like I my thoughts on AI are that like artificial intelligence can't be operated without intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
And so like there has to be a human behind it.
Mm-hmm.
And even though like AI can be a really great tool and potentially do what it is that you do, I don't think that there is any way to formulate human error.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't think there's actually a way to successfully make AI do what you've done.
Mm-hmm.
But is that what's happening?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like AI is kind of leaching into everything, and I'm sure there's, AI coverage places you can go. I haven't actually looked into that, but I would agree with you that I don't think that would be the best feedback to get from an AI, at least at this stage, because as we know, they are operated by what they've been fed before. So it really, I think, would close off some of the creativity. If an AI was looking at your script, it would probably guide you to be like something else rather than to be like yourself.
Yeah, well, because there's an end point. Because if it's everything it's been fed, it doesn't have any activation within it besides people feeding it for it to progress forward.
Mm-hmm.
Um, okay. My brain's going a bunch of different places, and
No
also I've been
worries.
very excited for this episode for so long. So I totally took us off at the structure that I told you we were going to start with. So
That's
I'm
cool.
going to go back to that. So, you know that I've been moving into creative consulting as part of what I've been doing, which is expanding the creative ideas that anybody else has and making them more you-coded or more authentic. So it is what we're talking about. It's anyone who has a creative idea or creative streak, making it bigger, making it more them, therefore more them in the world. And so I think that when things are super clear, it makes room for other people. And so I wanted to start today out because you are in a big transition period. And every time I have seen you recently, energetically, I just know a very big thing is happening. I'm going to video just in case that's your thing. So I want to ask, in your words today, what is your context as Dave Byer?
I think that's something that I've been contemplating a lot over the past year and maybe even beyond that. My career has like taken me in a lot of different places. I had a few reboots and a few low periods. So, I mean, just to give a little bit of background, I've worked as a video editor at ESPN for 6 years. I've worked in programming at AMC Networks and Warner Brothers, and I've worked as a TV lit assistant at an agency and done some development work at a few other smaller production companies. And I think finding my own context is something that I've been kind of pursuing my whole career. Like I've had a goal in mind, but I don't think that it has been something where you can just look at and say, like, if I just do this, then I'll get there, then I'll get there. I've tried to move toward the goal, and sometimes that's been with a lateral move or a diversion or a total throw something out and hope it works out kind of thing. I think a lot of where I'm at right now is kind of trying to make a clearer answer to that question.
Yeah. Is having a goal in mind, does that feel like enough for you to move forward?
Uh, To be honest, not anymore. I think because of how windy and unpredictable things have been, that I've kind of tried to expand the goal or re-envision the goal in a way that I think I've hoped would make it more possible to get somewhere comfortable, but I don't know that that's worked. So that's been part of what I think I've been struggling with in kind of reframing goals and success and what that feels like.
So the goal is changing based off of the experience that you're having arriving to said goal.
Yeah, I would say that. And I wanted to kind of say also when we were talking about my path that a lot of my outside actual life stuff has definitely impacted the journey as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a father now of a young daughter, and that definitely changes like your brain chemistry for like what you're willing to risk or put up with, or you start looking, way down the line a lot more, I think,
Yeah.
than in the moment, which is what I used to do.
What I hear in that is because from evidence, which we have, which is you having a very diverse career, going to a lot of different places, right? And acquiring a multidisciplinary skill set.
Mhm.
To me, the shape of that is kind of like windy and expansive. And with that in mind, I assume that there are things of your past positions you've had in your career that you're very proud of. And then with things like family stuff changing and becoming a dad, like that still is the same direction of expansiveness. And so for me, if I measure backwards hearing what you're saying, it sounds like this is actually the best route for you to arrive at places you want to be because you're acquiring the whole time.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot in what you just said that I've had to reflect on more. I feel like I've grown a lot mentally, especially in the last few years, like starting around the pandemic. Not afraid to say, like, I started doing therapy and working on myself in that and getting better organized, better like stress management. And that has all led to being able to learn more, whether it's just kind of within the field, like you were saying, or reading more, learning about topics that I find interesting. So I do feel like acquiring and growing is something that matters a lot to me, and it's something that I've always tried to do at all of those different stops, and now do even more like outside of work too.
Yeah. I think it's a good pattern to implement
Mhm.
into all sectors of your life,
Yeah.
especially because you're a lifelong learner. Like
Mhm.
you've been committed to that, and that's very clear in knowing you.
Yeah.
Um,
I've heard you say in the pod that you're
mm,
a curious person, and I would say that's what I feel too. Like I like learning about other people that I meet, and writ large learning about other cultures and other people and other histories and things around the world that interest me. That's the kind of thing that really sparks my curiosity.
yeah. Well, I usually think of ideas or things that I learn, like anything education wise, I think of it as like a picture.
Mhm.
And then I think if you don't ask the why, that the picture remains in the frame. And so if you ask the why, you take off the frame so you actually get the entire picture and not
Mm.
just like one little point that might be the most attractive or might be the thing most offered. Because when meeting people, you have to acclimate. So it's not like you meet someone and you're like, here I am.
Mhm.
It's you meet someone and you kind of have to suss it out because everyone's just trying to acclimate the best that they can to every given circumstance.
Mhm.
But I like that you picked up on the curiosity thing because I know that that's definitely a common theme for you.
Mhm.
My next question for you is what feels like it's working for you right now?
I'd say that kind of self-reflective growth that I mentioned, like I can see I think part of what's been frustrating about being unemployed right now is that I can see that I'm like the best version of myself right now. Like
Yeah.
I've become a smarter person, a more caring person, a more inquisitive person, a more creative person, a more organized person, and all that goes with that, both in my like personal life and professional life. And I think that regardless of any results that does or doesn't lead to, like it's a worthwhile thing to have improved myself like that. And so I feel proud of that growth and happy with the version of myself that I am and am becoming.
Mhm. That's important.
Mm.
Like, everyone at some point in time needs time, whether it's forced upon them or they figure out a way to make it for themselves. I think that there has to be time for an expansiveness because as you're expanding, you become a different person. So you can't expect to be in the same place that you were before as a different person. A
Mhm.
different person requires like a different environment.
Mhm.
And so, if you are looking backwards, do you think that everything has worked out in the best way for you? Or are there things that you still are like, nah?
The thing that I would say I haven't had the growth on that I do come back to a lot with that question is regret. Like because of what I've learned to this point and what I've seen, it's easy to look back at a lot of those different stops that I've had on that journey and second guess what I know you talk about younger Kate a lot. So
Yeah.
younger Dave and the thoughts and the steps that he took and wishing that he went left instead of right here
Mm.
kind of thing. You know, some of that I think I could have controlled and some of it I couldn't. The other kind of stuff that I was alluding to with my personal life, like kind of bad beats. My wife got diagnosed with breast cancer at her 30th birthday, and
Oh,
that
I'm
was
so
like right
sorry.
in the period of time when I think I was looking to make like professional changes, but that was a pretty big side swipe, kind of reset to plans. And then, like a few years later, I ended up having like heart failure myself.
Oh my
So
God.
that's been like two pretty big kind of diversions from what your goals are that you have to kind of adapt to, and that were very surprising, I think, to both of us. But I think has made us more resilient. But changed plans, changed realities that way. So yeah, those are some of the things that when you look back, like the professional choices I definitely can think twice about, but the personal things is like I think we did pretty good, all things considered.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that sounds like you played the hand that you were dealt the way
Yeah.
that you needed to. And that's,
Hmm.
I mean, when anything comes into your life like that, it deserves space in order for
Right.
it to be what it's going to be and then for you to move on past that.
Right.
Wow. I did not know that. So, with all that, you've kind of covered this, but is there anything else that you would say to my question if I were to ask, what are you working on right now?
I think with my lack of steady work right now, I've just tried to work on myself a lot when I'm at home. And I think that has led to me being like a better husband and father, which has been honestly like the most rewarding thing. That's probably a little cliche to like say, but really
I don't think
that's
so.
that's been warming my heart. Like yesterday wasn't a great day. At the end of the day, my kid was like so clingy in a good way and really like lifted my spirits.
Mm.
But then like aside from that stuff, I've been writing more in a way that I really struggled to in the earlier part of my career. It was always something that was on the back burner. When I just get this next opportunity, I'll have more time to do it, blah blah blah. A lot of excuses, but that was the way my mindset worked. And now I don't write as much as I wish, and some of our mutual friends do, but
Mhm.
I do make time for it and have every year for the last 5 like written 3 or 4 scripts, and that is something that I feel good about. And then aside from that, like I put a lot of my effort into JHRTS, and in recent months I've found some opportunities for some like industry gig work or helping with festivals and things like that. So try to stay, in the mix.
That all sounds like literally the smartest, to me, the smartest thing that you can be doing.
Hmm.
Because you and I have talked about this so much, and I want to talk about this. The industry is, we're in the overhaul. It's changing. Everything's different.
Yeah.
So for, even though it's unfortunate circumstances to, well, depends on your perspective, but being unemployed is not fun. usually.
Right.
For you to use that time for you to basically figure out who you are, like get super in tune and super comfortable in like your own expansion, like who you are, what you have to offer, what you want to make. So you're changing while the industry is changing. And then you're networking so that you're going to know a ton of people. I mean, that's only going to work. Networking only works to your advantage. Networking is also expansive. It just seems like you're participating in all of the literal and energetic things that you need to be, because that's what's going to continue happening just when that other thing clicks into place.
Mm-hmm. I hope so. That's like kind of been the goal. I think as time continues to pass with looking and feeling like you are doing all of those things and that they are the right moves, it does become like more frustrating that you're not seeing the traction for that or the return on that like time and mental investment. And I think that it definitely, is frustrating and also just wears you down, to be frank. Like I, at this point have put out so many applications, had so many interviews, and just, don't know what it takes to get over that hump. And a lot of times, those come with, referrals or people passing along your resume, and it still isn't always enough. But I had somebody yesterday who I knew tell me that like a job that I applied for at her company had like 500 applicants in a week or whatever. And it's like, that's an insane number. I have a lot of confidence in who I am and who I've become, but like, I don't know if I'm the best of 500 people,
Being the best is relative, and being their best is political.
Sure. Yeah.
That sounds to me a lot like acting. Oh my
Right,
God,
yeah.
that sounds so much like acting. Okay, so these are the rules of the question. Your answer is correct 100%, and it exists. The answer that you say exists. So if you got to name, like give a title to and give a description to the ideal role that you are perfect for, the perfect candidate, what is the description? Even if that description doesn't exist, even if that name doesn't exist, what is the job that you write that is perfect for you?
Well, can I ask you a question back?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, so when we were talking about goals before, like, are you asking what would I be ready for tomorrow now, or like what would be the end line goal that I would still be shooting for?
Okay, great.
I guess they could be, they would probably be different right now is why.
As they would be different. Yeah. Okay, because I think that for me, I mean, I'm building an empire over here. That's what I'm trying to do.
Okay.
And I want to be a part of the change because I believe that my ideas are really good. And I believe that my mindset is really good. So I want to be influential of the way to empower other people to be influential. And so if I had to name my job title, it would kind of encompass all of that, but I would know that that is the job title that would grow because I would never pick an end point. I would always pick a point that continues to get bigger because that's my favorite thing to do.
I love the like the confidence and the outlook. I think we have a lot in common of like our outlook on things, but I think that I can tell that you have the like performance background because you're so comfortable in that kind of like declaration of your intent. And that's something that I know I struggle with. Like I don't feel like I can declare what I think I could do tomorrow, even though I know I could do it, just because I don't think that other people would believe that I could. And that's actually part of why I've tried to learn from you more about the like entrepreneurial side, because I think I've put so much effort into trying to prove myself to fit into like corporate boxes that I wish I could just kind of like make my own box, and like, or not a box really, just like, that's really, I think at this point, the only way to prove that I can do what I know I can do, because I feel like I'm so far behind on like a traditional corporate ladder kind of a sense that it's like, that's why it's caught me up to try to answer that question. But I can go back and try to answer it more.
Well, no, I mean, I will. Yes, I want you to. I just want to say something about what you just said, which is For me, I know I don't work well for people. I work really well with people. And so I've just learned that starting out as an actor and realizing what that system looks like and knowing how hard the game is, but also knowing that even if I achieve actor, big movie star in every single movie, I'm not going to be creatively satiated because that's only one aspect of me. So like you, I've expanded and I've realized how multidimensional I am. And so how a lot of stuff needs to be satisfied. And there's only one Kate McLeod. So I'm the one who kind of needs to write what that looks like and invent the spaces. And it is hard to get people to believe what you do. I told someone, I forget where I was, but it was someone who definitely, I call them suits when it's like, you're not in my world kind of, but and that's okay. I'm always very interested in what they do and what their perception is. But I said I was a creative entrepreneur and he says, that sounds made up. And I said, it is. I made it up. Maybe other people have that title, but I think just that ownership of not trying to convince others because I'm never going to.
Right.
Maybe that's the middle child in me, or I'm not sure, but just I've never successfully been able to convince other people of my opinions, but I've been able to empower them to have their own.
Right.
And so usually when people don't believe what I say, I think that's more of a reflection on them than it is on me because I believe what I say. And that's what I just want to say that in response to what you just said, because it is, but it's hard.
Yeah.
I think it requires a lot of delusion, I think.
Well, yeah, that's the interesting thing though, is that I think when we talked about like regrets and things, like I think when I started my journey in this industry, I think if you'd asked me when I was coming out of undergrad, like the same question you just did, I probably would have like whispered on the side, like I would love to be a writer, but I had it kind of like beaten into me through tough professors and other things I'd heard that like that's an unstable career path. So I think what my goal was to kind of get like a corporate ladder thing that's still tangential in the industry that would touch some of those like creative aspects, but like give more stability and more of a pathway to follow rather than like just kind of being desperate all the time or trying and failing. And what I've found is that is still the case on the corporate ladder too. So like sometimes I do wonder, would it have been better to just kind of go all out in pursuit of the far-fetched version of the dream versus like what I thought was a safer path, but is not safer because of corporate mergers and layoffs and all of everything else that's happened in the last 20 years.
Well, I think that's it. The answer is exactly what you just said, which is you can't go back and change the past,
Right.
but you can use that information in evidence in your own way, and you get to write how that evidence works. So to the professor who wasn't a writer or who knows maybe tried to be a writer and it didn't work, and the person who ultimately wants to keep you safe is going to say that's not stable because to them that's true. But to you, that's not true, and you know that. And so I think that would actually be a tool with those things. And I think about that with little Kate a lot, is I would use that as tools to say, well, this information that I have from the past, yes, I can't change it. And like, yes, I wish I would have started acting earlier. Yes, I wish I would have said yes to this contract when I didn't say yes at the time. But instead, I can look at that information and decide that it's actually going to be evidence in supporting that I should trust my gut now.
No, that sounds like good advice. I don't know what else to say back to that.
No, you don't have to respond to that. I just, I'm kind of just reflecting on that too, because something I love about having these kinds of conversations is it's practice, right? It's practice for both people, and because you've given me tons of good advice too. It's a practice of a neurological pathway that I'd rather subscribe to as opposed to the older one. So,
right.
And when you spoke about your daughter, my sister-in-law said something to me because, I expressed to her, I was like, I'm scared about when to start my family because I'm so protective of my career and I have so much fun doing this. And she said, no. She goes, there is nothing like the love of a child or having a child that will make you fight harder because it's not just about you anymore. And she's like, it's actually more of a strength than I think that people have told you it is.
Yeah.
And with someone who I know so well, that conviction is there, and I see with her how she encourages her kids, like my nephew and my niece, and I know the same is true for you as a dad, I can tell. But all this self-work, it feels like a lot of it is it's bigger now because it's not just for you.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's good advice that she gave. I think that is true. Like I said, it does rewire the brain chemistry in a lot of ways. And I think, the fighting harder part is definitely part of it. And the kind of like having some aspect to come back to that brings you joy even in like tough times
Mhm.
when not just professionally but in all the other shit going on in the world. Like it's nice to have that. Yeah,
The 3
recommend.
recommend. I mean, I'm excited that the 3D life of it all. I What you said brought up a question for me. Do you ever do an exercise where you find your own definition of words?
It sounds like something I would do. I think I've probably recently, but I can't draw on an example.
I think that we all communicate via whatever spoken language we speak, English for us,
Mm-hmm.
but I also think that that is just the common language, it's not the interpersonal one,
Mm-hmm.
which is why I always ask people, especially when we're working together, "What's your context?" I always ask people when they say things like, "What is the definition of that word?"
Mm-hmm.
Because, yes, we have what we've agreed upon for communication's sake, but not in terms of us individually, and we don't spend a ton of time on things like that as a community because I think that it's more important to double down on the understanding that everyone will have a different definition of things. But when I was going through your LinkedIn and I was going through your history of what it is that you've done professionally, I was kind of wondering what a couple of your definitions are for you. Themes I noticed in your work were words like development, assistant, coordinator, manager. Earlier we said like curator,
Mm-hmm.
all these things. All of them have a common thread, but what is your definition of what it means to participate in being a part of making something in your field?
I can't remember actually if we were talking about this off mic before or on mic, but we were talking about how we both had a lot of creator energy even back in school and being like fidgety and kind of thinking about other things than the class that we were in. And I think that's kind of the way I always was and that I've tried to bring into my professional positions is just like an idea person. I have tried everywhere I've been to make things better, whether
Mm,
that's in the product that I'm working on, like what's going to air, or even in some of these bigger corporations, like internally, organizationally. I've worked on career development programs at one of them and fixed like kind of cumbersome training processes and tried to put together collaboration between departments that weren't talking to each other but were doing the same kind of thing and kind of streamlining. Like that's stuff that I like to do, and I think that's kind of a common thread I see that I think runs through the words that you were just talking about is like trying to help improve things, development. That's like what that word means to me is developing something from a point A to a better point B,
mhm.
whether that's like someone's script or whether that's like the internal organizational streamlining I was talking about.
I just got a visual of, and this is the bad pitch visual, but I got a visual of your ideal job being the idea house.
Mm.
Like the idea, not like, yeah, house, or like I just saw you in front of a big building and it was just ideas on it. But
I like it.
would that be the ideal job then? To be the ideas person? Because making things better, it makes things, I feel like I've said this like 90 times this episode, but expansive,
Yeah.
So you want to make things bigger, better.
Yeah, I mean that I think I would love that sort of thing. It just comes back to what I said before about the kind of like imposter syndrome feel of it all. Like I know I would be good at that,
Mhm.
but I don't know that I've like proven it in any way that say I did have that as like a business or something. Like why would someone come to me for that? Just like what do I have to like demonstrate or prove my idea house is not gonna blow over in a wind, you know?
Uh-huh. Okay, then build it brick by brick.
Okay.
Do you ever count, like, the things that you have done that have been successful? Do you ever look at evidence? Do you ever, like it's like rereading a book, right? And, like,
Mhm.
seeing what you didn't see before.
Mm.
So you go back, maybe you do, like, an audit of literally your career and be like, "Nope, this was good," and then you write it out because our brains are super tricky. They want us to stay in the
Can I write
Yeah,
that?
please, please build it brick write it down.
Yeah.
Um, our brains are so tricky. The safest place is the place where we're not dead, which is where
Mm.
we are right now, because
Mhm.
I have proof to you right now that I am chilling here and I'm doing okay.
Mhm.
But to think that I'm gonna go somewhere different, I don't know what that is, the unknown. And
Right.
thematically, it sounds like you're talking about a lot of things that sound like they oh my gosh, I just lost my thought. No, 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 I didn't. Ugh, I hate it when this happens to me. I get, like, so excited about a big
Yeah,
idea, and I'm
yeah.
like, "Wait, where did it go?" Oh, but you build it brick by brick. You basically go back. Your audit is, "Where have I been successful? Where have I made this idea better?" And okay, now I remember my thought. Our brains don't want us to realize that because then it is going to give us momentum to get bigger and to start making these bigger ideas and, like, changing our whole trajectory or changing our lives or changing things up, going to the new place. It is helpful. I do this a lot in my Me3 program. You have a modality of how you track your evidence, how you put your evidence down. You write it out, you do a voice memo, you turn your phone on, you FaceTime record yourself or whatever it is that your future self is going to believe from past you.
Mm.
But that starts with going back first and being like, what evidence do I already have here? It's like, instead of going out to dinner, it's like seeing what's in the fridge. There's always food at home.
Yeah.
So if
Okay.
you were to go back and be like, no, I have the evidence, I write this down, because then you're going to have 9 pages that'll be sitting in front of you. And you're like, holy shit, the idea house is like the best idea ever.
Mm. Yeah, no, that's interesting because like even just you talking about it and me having to kind of recount some of it to you is like reminding me maybe to value some things that I've done more than I like kind of even was primed to.
Hmm.
I think when you're in a spot, especially in a corporate position for a while, which like I've been at some for 2 years, some for one of them for 6, and, like, it sounds long, but while you're in it, it just kind of passes really fast, and you
Yeah.
all of a sudden have been there a long time, and, like, stuff becomes so rote almost that you kind of, like, forget that you did these things that might be impressive or might be, um, a brick for something else.
Yeah. I have a section in my notes app on my phone, and it's just called, I call it universal winks. And,
Mhm.
that's my thing. And I just write down things that are proof of evidence of
Yeah.
what it is I'm doing.
Mhm.
Because then when I have those moments when I go down, which I give myself space for, when I'm super down or not feeling 100% confident, then I let myself have that space. But then when I've had my time there and really felt those emotions, which are just as valid as the other ones, then
Mhm.
I pull out my universal winks and I go through my evidence bank. And I'm
Mm.
like, okay,
Evidence bank, I like that.
yeah, like, I'm
Mhm.
glad I have that, that's great, and I have to be honest, I mean, this is what a lot of creative entrepreneurship has been for me, is it's figuring out the best way to introduce myself to the
Mhm.
world,
Mhm.
and so I will admit that one of my plans on having you on the podcast is I believe in you tremendously, and I've seen your work ethic, and I've seen what I believe that you're capable of, and I think it should be shared with the world.
Mm.
And so it's like I think that having platforms where you find creative ways to introduce yourself to people, whether it be podcasts or whatever, but instead of a resume being the definition of who you are and what your value is, why can't there be a larger body of work that is? Why can't
Mm.
it be what you say about yourself or how you talk about yourself or how you interact with another person? Like,
Mhm.
instead of maybe the energy that you have in the past put towards caring about what other people think, maybe
Mhm.
that energy that is meant for other people, you decide to redirect it towards engaging with others
Mhm.
or participating with others. Instead of
Mhm.
caring what they think in terms of putting yourself down, you care what they think in terms of expanding yourself.
Mm. Mhm. I feel like that's something that I've gotten better at. When you said that, it was making me kind of reflect on some of the different relationships over the past 5, 10 years of networking, and I think I've done some of that, but it is hard when you're in a job. I think it's almost easier when you're talking to people outside of where you work that to do some of that, and when you're in it, it gets lost in the, day-to-day minutia of like, seeing someone at their desk and bumping into them in the cafeteria or whatever. It becomes so it gets absorbed by the mundanity of the everyday, but it's good to reframe it that way and think of it that way if you are in that context.
Yeah. Well, I think those systems also have hierarchies.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like a lot of that is wanting to stay safe because when you're
Mm-hmm.
working in a system, which I would argue for my perspective doesn't work,
Right.
it's like, yeah, you're trying to stay safe and stay small, and it helps you be more digestible to other people. And that's typically what does keep you okay in those frames.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that you're pointing out something else that I am noticing with that. Like that hierarchy is not always a fan of those idea house bricks for
Hmm.
how we'll call it. Like people sometimes like the old ways and the traditional hierarchy, even if you can tell it's not working or could be done better. So that like idea that I shared of, or what I said before about wanting to kind of help improve things, not everyone's always on that wavelength. And I think that is why, you and perhaps I probably are better suited for independent work because of
Yeah.
that. So something else to think about.
Well, I think it's also being the good-hearted person, right? And it's also actually desiring change. It's not wanting to fit into some map that's already been written by someone else. I'm not really interested in taking someone else's journey because I don't think I could ever successfully be someone else.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really about writing my own. And yeah, I would agree for both of us, independence is better
Mm-hmm.
because I don't want the other system just because someone else vetted it.
Right.
I want the system that I vet because, I mean, how many people's opinions do you genuinely trust?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I've ran into a lot of stuff at a couple of the companies where people would literally say things like, well, we had to do it this way, so you should too. And it's like, well, that's a pretty awful reason to continue doing something, especially when just the framing of that is like a negative, like we had to do
We had
this.
to.
Did you though?
No, you
Like,
didn't. You chose
no.
to.
Oh, we could do better, so why don't we try?
So what would your definition of laziness be then?
What would my definition of laziness be?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the status quo, I guess. Like, unless the status quo, I mean, there are status quos that are probably working well and you should stick with. But
Yeah,
for the
yeah.
most part, like just seeing something not working and just kind of going with it just because, like that irritates me.
Yeah, yeah, because that decision, or, like, common mentality that people buy into of just loss of their own autonomy.
Uh-huh.
To think that you don't have your own autonomy anywhere is crazy because it's like, even in a puzzle, there's a 1,000-piece puzzle, there are 1,000 pieces that fit together all together one way, but each one still has their own image.
True. Yeah. And I think a lot of that comes also from like, change seems hard, but like a lot of the times the way I look at it is like, people think the status quo or staying with how something is easier. But when you think about it, on a lot of these cases where there were, you know, cumbersome processes, it's like the status quo is actually taking everyone longer to accomplish work. And if we spend a little bit of time on reforming this process, like actually the change will be easier for everyone. But
Mhm,
I don't really know why not everyone sees things that way, but
mhm.
glad that I do, even though it doesn't always please everybody.
Well, the status quo to me seems like the AI. That
Right.
seems like the artificial intelligence,
Hmm.
and that seems like the thing that we've just decided doesn't grow anymore,
Right.
and I hate, like, when things are not innovative. I don't want them to stay the same, and yeah, change is hard. Like, that's just,
Yeah.
like, a fact. Like, change is just not fun, always. I think hard can be fun, but to choose something else because you're afraid the other thing is hard, to me, that's like, "Oh, man." Like, I feel like you just made yourself smaller
Right.
instead of making yourself bigger. And like, yeah, for sure, there are times that you don't need to, but it's like missing out on an opportunity to grow. It's like missing a meal,
Hmm.
as a kid when you're trying to build bones and shit.
Yeah.
I'm curious about how you would define your creative voice? Because to me, a lot of what you've done in the past seems very conduit driven, very not siphoning, but I want to say like the example of having a big body of work that you are going to put into a hook.
Mhm.
Or when you're saying, let's take these ideas and let's make them make sense so then they can get bigger, where it's just like the little connections
Yeah.
that happen between people. How would you define your creative voice when you are able to translate creativity from one place to another?
Um, the best example I can think of for where that resonates is that we talked earlier about regret and not being able to go backwards, but I think a lot of those things that I've tried to use my creative voice to create or improve have been in a way to try to correct missteps I've had, but for other people. So, like in one of those jobs when I worked on training, it was because when I was being trained, the process was not good. So, I wanted the people after me to have a better time than I did with it.
Yeah.
With the thing I'm like most proud of in the recent years is with JHRTS making the New York Writers Room. That was something that I saw a lot of creatives in our membership that want to be writers, and all these opportunities are like primarily in Los Angeles, and there's no pipeline, there's a lot less opportunity here, but there's still a ton of people wanting to make it here. So I went through the process of like pitching and conceiving and working on implementing that with someone else who had firsthand writer's room experience, and then got people to participate and give advice that were East Coast based or non LA people to give their journeys into writing, and I wanted to create that opportunity not just for me but for other people. And so I guess that's how I kind of view my creative voice, is like trying to help not just myself. I would love for our industry to be like more inclusive, not just of like gender and race and sexual orientation, but geography. Like to me, that's such a huge thing. Like not everyone can afford to take a chance on moving to the second most expensive city in our country. So, like, do we not think there are good storytellers in Detroit or New Orleans or Jacksonville, Florida, or whatever? Like, I just wish there was more like opportunity for people outside of LA.
I think that means including accessibility and
Mm-hmm.
opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that people think that's hard
Yeah.
and then they don't want to.
Yeah.
And doing something like that would be hard would be fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like for me with you that learning actually needs teaching involved in it in order for it to be learning. And earlier you said that you have two parents who are teachers.
Mm-hmm.
And because you're saying that, you learn this stuff, you think of a better way, you're like, oh, it could have been taught better.
Mm-hmm.
So then it does change and then you teach it.
Mm-hmm.
And then you left that place better, but you hope that the energy that you put there actually continues, that the next person, even though that they learn from you, they go, yeah, that was great.
Mm-hmm.
I could teach it better once I put this on it. Like they keep evolving it.
Yeah, that would be great to kind of see that in your wake. And I think another reason why I'm so proud of the writers room is that I've already seen that happen. Like we've done two now, and like 5 members of our board are former people from the room, and I am passing the third version of the room off to 2 people who came from the room. So they're doing like literally what you said. They're going to run it now and hopefully make it better. And that feels good to me. To like, I loved being a part of it, but I feel good that it'll continue and hopefully evolve beyond me.
Okay, wait. Now I have a real question. Not a
Okay.
real, they're all real. I have a big question.
Uh-huh.
What is the difference between the ego of the past for you and the ego in the future?
I've looked up the definition of those like psych terms so many times, I never like really retain them. So
What I'm hearing you say is that you're saying that you hope that it gets better from where you left it.
uh-huh.
So why don't you think that whatever you do next, you're going to make better.
Oh, I feel like I would, but
Yeah.
like, yeah, it's just a matter of like getting that opportunity or creating that opportunity.
You already have the pattern that you do.
Uh-huh.
There's no ego. You say, yeah, I did here. This could have been better. I want that to be better. I
Uh-huh.
hope you make it better.
Mm-hmm.
But then it's a thing of like waiting for permission in order for you to make a space better when really you already are. And like, yes, it's in JHRTS, like while you are looking for the next opportunity. But I think that it goes a long way when you have that confidence and you believe that in yourself. Like people believe you when you believe yourself, because you believe in yourself is literally the instruction manual for other people to believe you.
Mm-hmm.
You can't expect people to do what you haven't already done for yourself.
Right.
I just see it. You already have it there.
Okay.
That's awesome. I think it's a big thing to say, hey, I've been here and I made this better. But you're also, by you saying that you hope someone else makes it better, it's either that you know that you're not the one who makes the best version, that who makes the best version is a lot of people together.
Sure.
And it's also you saying, I hope that my expansion continues to expand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I guess, yeah, when I hear the word ego, I do think of like kind of a narcissism as what I associate that word with. So like, no, I don't think that I'm probably ever the best version. I would want to, like like you said, like I said before, like improve things and assume that there's always going to be room for more improvement.
Yeah.
You're never at the end point of something. There's always a way to make it better.
A common thing I hear on podcasts, when CEOs are on podcasts that I follow, a lot of them say, be the solution to someone's problem. And that's the same way I feel about acting. When I come in, like, I don't know, because it's personal for me to say that I am the best version of this. It's political for you to say that my thing is the best version for this, right? But for you to develop your own idea and then bring it to someone and say, this is my solution to your problem. When it comes to getting employed by somebody who, like, there are 500 applicants, you know, I think that there is value in being able to say, yeah, there are 500 applicants. I'm telling you that I'm the best one, because I'm the best version of myself right now, because I'm going to come in and I will be a solution to your problem. I know that I, for a fact, will make this a better place, and I will set it up to be a better place. The next person makes it a better place. So I'm not your temporary solution. I'm your long-term solution.
I think that's a good way to frame it. And I would love to be able to work next on like harnessing the sort of confidence energy that you radiate and get some of that myself. Yeah, I think when you compared what I was saying to the acting, it clicked for me also that like writing is that too. Like if you're writing a script that you want to sell or pitch, like you're thinking your script is a solution to some sort of lack there is on TV or on in the theaters, like you think you can fill that hole, your writing is the solution to that problem too. So there's like a through line there that I didn't really see.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
I love that. Well, especially with the theater that's on right now and with what I'm seeing. Like there's good theater, right?
Yeah.
But it's not in abundance.
Right.
I feel like there are pockets of good theater right now.
Right.
I feel like there are pockets of good TV right now. And I would love for those pockets to expand to other areas, because the going on autopilot of people and not being authentic, it leads to more of the same that's already existed. And so I just love this theme of expansiveness and not being a temporary solution, but to be a long-term solution by being part of it and knowing that it's going to continue after you. And that to me, because to me, ego is I'm the best, no one can do what I do. And when I'm not there, you're failing.
Right.
And that's just not you coded at all.
Right.
I just looked at the time and can't believe how fast this flew. This was so fun.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me. It was good to open up and talk about some of this stuff, and I feel, rejuvenated in a way and
Oh, cool.
Eager to try some things out.
Yeah. So what is there anything that you want to say, last thoughts, or anything you want to plug? Like, do you want people to follow you anywhere, or are there any, are there any lasting thoughts too?
I I have on socials at Byer Be There, but I don't really care if anyone follows me. follows me. Um, but no, this was a lot of fun. I hope that you can keep helping other people with your initiatives that you're doing, and appreciate you sharing your wisdom and time with me in the past, off mic and on. That's been helpful. Thanks.
Oh, well, of course. And honestly, why I love this is I expand too. I always leave a different person, which is exciting to me because you've shared tons of wisdom with me.
Mhm.
And what clicks for me in my version of my life and then clicks for you in your version of your life. It's so much information. And it's like the more information we have, the more we can do with it, more actions we can take.
For sure.
Yeah. Thanks, Dave.
Thank you.
And that's the latest. I'm honored to have been part of your thinking sphere today. Feel free to share, like, and subscribe on this platform, or follow and participate on any of my social media platforms. If this practice intrigues you as much as it does me, then join us in the Me3 community, where we will work directly and you will curate a mindful method of thinking to define your own creative conscious. Thanks for listening to the latest episode of Authenticated. I love that you're here.